Hello, this is Jason Dupree with OCR Talk. Thank you for listening. Trying something a little different this time. Got a YouTube page coming up on the OCR report for podcast, and it's going to be a separate one so that the newness doesn't mess with the algorithm of our current page that has, mostly races, live coverage, obstacle videos, that kind of stuff. So we're trying that out. That's going to be coming soon. And we're going to hopefully start to do more video podcasts too, because just kind of what you see nowadays. Like, video podcasts just seem to be very popular. And obviously people still listen to the podcast version of it, but watching a video, I don't know. I find myself doing it sometimes here and there. And as you can see, I'm driving. Traffic's getting a little weird here and heading home. We were in Austin this weekend for DEKA Fit, and we did a live stream. And so if you listened to the last episode, you know that we are going to start focusing at OCR races on doing post live, where we record locally on the phones, take that footage, sync it up, play it back live, and do commentating and camera switching and graphics all live. But for this, we are still live in DEKA's because of the location. You're inside of a convention center somewhere, and other than the cell signal possibly being not great because of the building, depending on the building material and depending on, I guess, whatever they may have within the building as far as infrastructure to help with cell signal. But what we've seen this year is that we've had great cell signal at all of them. Some still better than others, but yeah. So we were in the Austin Convention Center, and the cell signal was, I'm going to go ahead, I feel like I've said this 3 times this year, but I'm going to go ahead and say this is the best cell coverage we've had in a DEKA. Or any race that we've done, really. There was 5G inside the building, and ultra wide band 5G. The phone's being weird with the screen, whatever, doesn't matter. So I'm excited about doing this format before I move back to DEKA. I'm excited about doing this format with the camera while I'm driving. Yeah, I've been recording while I'm driving. Well, I've got this lavalier mic. I'm going to see how that sounds. If it needs some post-processing, I can still run it through the Adobe Audio Enhancer to clean it up a little more, because it is 99 degrees outside, so I am blaring the air conditioning as high as possible. But since I'm using this, it's not blowing straight into the microphone, at least. And whenever I'm out at an OCR, I think it'll be, we'll get some times where I'm driving in the background is mountains in forests and stuff. So right now it's not anything special. I'm just driving between Austin and Fort Worth, but we should get some interesting backgrounds at some point. You can probably see Declan in the background for those watching the video. He came with me, and we, he's still too young to race. He's about to turn 8, and their youngest races is 10 and up. But he did a great job of hanging out. I did let him use a tablet this time, because last time he didn't. And while he did run around and play a little bit, he ended up taking a couple naps. So I just wanted to give him something to do other than napping. But we still had a great time. The race was really good. Interestingly, we were worried about how many rabbits we would have, and I only had 1 confirmed, and we were still asking. Some people were starting to inquire, but I never had anybody fully commit. And then I'm gonna say Friday, maybe Thursday, I can't remember for sure. But Alex Walker messaged us and said, "Hey, do you still need some rabbits? I've got some track kids that are coming." So I don't know if she just works with the track kids or if she teaches. I know she's a orthodontist in some fashion. But he said, yeah, that'd be amazing. And so she said she was bringing 4 kids, all track high school kids, and she ended up showing up with 2. I was like, oh darn, I only got 2. But I'll just go ahead and straight up say it. Those kids, those 2 that were there, did fantastic. They honestly, we know anybody that's done it knows that it takes some practice. It takes some time, at least once, to experience it and get familiar with just the little nuances of how the gimbals work, where to stand so you don't, get in the athlete's ways. Just the little things that make a huge difference. And they picked it up right away. I could hear them through the cameras directing each other, like working together, like, hey, I got this, you go get that. And they were running with the athletes at times, and it was great. They did awesome. One of them had a phone with cell signal. The other one had a phone that didn't have cell signal because, they're kids, so that's understandable. But the Wi-Fi in the building was free, so we just put him on the Wi-Fi, and I wasn't sure, when I got in there, I wasn't sure how good it was going to be because I tested it, and I was getting very low numbers, like 2 to 3 maybe, upload and download. So because of that, I went ahead and used my router and my cell router, and it was great. Like, it doesn't actually do 5G, but even with 4G, it was still getting 30, 40 up and down. And so that worked fine. But his phone, I remember, I think it may have cut out a couple times, whereas the other kids, the one that was on cell signal, never cut out during that first race. And they were both very clean feeds. So I ended up bumping the quality up a little bit on the teams race. And I did notice that they cut out a couple times more than previously, but other than that, it was great. They were fantastic. And like I said, those 2 dudes were on it. And so I barely had to direct them at all. They ran a lot. They were on it when it came to the stations. I even had some people from DEKA make comments that they were in there, like, getting the close shots and dipping in and just doing an awesome job. Eli and Kai Rogers, excellent job, you guys. And thank you so much, Alex, for bringing those kids to me. Because otherwise we would have had Megan McSwain, who is very, very pregnant right now. So she would have done it, and she would have just had to, walk between the stations. And then who knows who else we would have had, not really sure. We had Luke Alterman on site, which is always awesome to get get the commentators on site. Xander was still at home, but having Luke on site, you get that extra sense of just the vibe of the place. And whenever we brought in for interviews, for athletes for interviews, he was able to interview them, which is great. So while he asked, Xander got to ask a few questions, he did the majority of the interviewing because he was right there. So you get that faster, more fluent back and forth, which is really good. He was wearing this cowboy hat, so we were in Texas and we were playing it up for everybody. Looking good in his cowboy suit. He raced individual and got first in his age group. His son raced, got second in his age group. And Luke also raced doubles age group, men's, and got second. Which is pretty awesome. Congrats to him. Let's see, during the show, the first show, for whatever reason, so here's a little technical setup that I had. Got a laptop, and I got a second monitor, and on that monitor is where I put the show for the commentator. So it's got one bigger screen for the output, and then multiple smaller screens showing the different cameras. So he's got that one. And what it uses is vMix Call. So if you have heard me talk about it before, you know that we use a production machine that's in the cloud. So we currently use AWS. We got a computer on AWS, which is Amazon Web Services. And I remote into it with a program called Parsec. And for whatever reason, and since I had a commentator there, I dialed in as the producer through a separate laptop, a Chromebook actually, and just used a different headset. I didn't use the really nice high quality headsets that we had because I had those hooked up to the main laptop for the commentators and the interviews. So whenever I'm there by myself, I use that and just hand it over to the if I'm not commentating, I just hand it over to the athletes. But since I had a commentator there, I used this second Chromebook and dialed in as a producer. So that way, everything you hear, that way when I talk to the athlete or to the commentators and to the rabbits, you don't hear me. So I had that too. So two laptops, basically two laptops. One remoted into the computer, the AWS computer, and on that same machine dialed into the show, and then on the other machine dialed into the show. The weird thing is, when the connection to the AWS machine, the remote connection was very slow, and it kept dipping in and out. Like it would freeze, and I was waiting a couple seconds before it would catch back up. It was very much a pain in the butt. Because when you're trying to do things like change a graphic or make adjustments on the fly, it's just not. You just gotta wait. You gotta click and wait. But on the same computer, the screen was showing the show to Luke, the commentator, was good. Like it was nice and smooth. So I found myself, and actually the Chromebook that I was dialed in as the producer, same thing. It was pretty clean too. So I found myself looking at those two screens more than I did the remote computer, which is pretty funny. And even weirder, after that, I ended up, let's see, what did I do? I think I just restarted Parsec, and that seemed to help. I don't know if that's all it was, but I went into the settings of Parsec, just like double checked everything, but I don't really think I changed anything. And so on the teams race, it was all clean, like super good. It was fantastic. So I'm not really sure what happened with the first one, but just one of those things that's be good to check. Like maybe things are being slow and you don't expect them to, just do a reboot. And speaking of reboots, so funny. I've done this way too many times. We start the show, and the guys are commentating, and I set my phone on past the keyboard on the lip of the laptop, and I barely touched the power button, and it puts the computer to sleep. So oh my God, come on! So that cuts Luke out. So thankfully, because the show is in the cloud, Xander is still commentating, the cameras are all still rolling, all that's good. So just have to wait, a minute or whatever it is for the laptop to come back on and to get Luke back in. And so there's a moment there where Xander's maybe seeing that Luke's frozen because they can see each other, or maybe he just, asks a question and Luke doesn't respond. So that's funny. And now that I'm thinking about it, as these things, this is why it's good to talk this stuff out. And even if nobody listens to this show, this is the main, I'm very thankful that people are interested. But the biggest reason I do this is because whenever I talk it out, say the words out loud, that's where you learn the best. So, I'm kind of teaching, I'm telling, I'm sharing. So that's where I learn and pick up things that I might not otherwise. Pardon me, I'll take a sip. So that is something I need to do. I need to change that setting for what the power button does. I need to make it to where you got to hold the power button down to put it to sleep or something like that. And that way that won't happen again, because that's silly. I've done that way too many times. It's ridiculous. The shows went pretty well. The individuals, I had the instant replays. I had it set up, and I know DEKA asked me, when there was a whole thing with it was last race, the burpees at the end, Jessica and Mark Paulzine, they had issues with their burpees, and they wanted to see the instant replay. And I said, well, you just have to go look at it on YouTube, because I'm not recording the show other than that. But the instant replays in vMix, I can bring in up to 8 cameras and record those cameras where you see just those cameras. Like all 8 of them can be recorded on their own, so you can watch the whole thing back on just each individual camera. But I haven't done that because the fact that I use SRT as the protocol for the video, SRT, for whatever reason, I don't really know why yet, but SRT with hardware acceleration enabled, which means the hardware encoding, which means the hardware, the graphics card, the computer graphics card, is what's processing that video decode. Hardware decoding, I think. Could be encoding, sort of. But that's what processes it. So if you uncheck that, then it's the CPU. Now, thinking back to OCRWC last year, that was one of the problems that I had, is I had all these SRT feeds coming in, and I just missed that I didn't check that box on all of those camera feeds. So they were all using the CPU. I don't recall if the CPU was actually getting overburdened. I think it was. I know I had seen that previously, but I feel like I had seen that more with Paperspace, because I was using Paperspace at the time. So I haven't tried that with AWS yet. I've been using hardware decoding the whole time since I started using AWS. But so the difference is, using SRT with the hardware decoding off, I can use that camera feed as for the live replay, instant replay. If I turn it on, I can't. But what I did for this show is there's 4 total outputs that vMix can do. And you can use those outputs, whatever you push into those outputs, you can use as one of the instant replays. So I ended up I have one output that goes out to YouTube. Second output is what goes to the commentators. So 3 and 4 were open. Now, when we do the multi-language, the Spanish and English for the Mexican races, I do a separate feed to the Mexican commentators so that they can. Why is it? There's a reason. Oh, so whenever I switch cameras to show the host, it shows them and not the English guys. Which, it was funny, last Mexican race, I forgot to set the audio at first. So for the first little while at the beginning of the intro, basically it was all the English guys, even though we're showing the Spanish guys, which is the bozo move, but that's where you learn. So with them, I only have one extra output. But this race, I had 2 extra outputs, so I used 2 of those for the first 2 cameras, and then I set camera 3 and 4 to not use hardware encoding. We ended up not even using camera 3 and 4, so I don't know how well that would have went. I think it would have been okay, but so I did pull the two cameras we had into the instant replay functionality, and I forgot to start. When you do instant replay, it's recording those cameras for the whole show. So that recording has to go somewhere. So you gotta have enough space. So I recorded. I did the two, and but I forgot to hit start. So that's why I don't want to do it straight from the beginning of the show, because that's during the intro. Nobody's racing, so it's not necessary. But whenever the race starts, that's when you want to have it recording. And I forgot to start it when the men started. I got to figure out a way to either automate that or give myself a reminder. I'm not sure. Then I can do a script. I can do a script that would tell me, maybe give me a message or something, pop up a graphic in the preview saying start instant replay. And I've been doing a lot of scripting in PowerShell for my regular job for the past year or so. So I feel pretty confident that I know the scripting in vMix is Visual Basic. So it's different, but it's not crazy different. So I think I can do it. Just make it something simple, like when this happens, show this in the preview. And I just have a graphic say, hey, don't forget to turn on the instant replay. But for the men, I forgot to do it. But then for the women, I remembered. And so the way I have it set up is I've got a button that says -5 IR, which tells me it's going to record the last 5 seconds. Or not record, but mark that spot. Because it's recording the whole time. But it marks it. So it marks it in and out. Here's where this clip is going to be start, and here's where it's going to end. And it's really nice. If you are the person that's doing just the instant replay, you've got so much control. It's really awesome system. So it marks it, and it sets it. And it's got both cameras. So you can have it where, let's say you've got something awesome happened, but both cameras were on it, and you got different angles. You can play it back, and it'll show both camera angles, one after the other. It's super cool. But while I was watching it, so while the show's happening, something cool happens. I hit the button. It marks that previous 5 seconds, and then I pay attention to what camera that was, 1 or 2, and I mark that camera and turn off the other one. And so that way, when we play it back, and we did this after the race was over, we watched the instant replays back, and I just had it where I got another button that's just to play them all back out all at one time. So I did that, which is great. And I can't remember if it was during the teams race. It had to have been during teams race since I felt more comfortable. I had it all set up. I remembered to do it when the men started. And there was one point in the race where I had marked a spot, and there was maybe some downtime while they were just running. I forget. And I played it back. So we had this just happened, but hey, let's take a quick look at it. That's the instant replay part of it. The play just happened. You want to see it, and we'll see it again. So I did that at least once during the show, which was pretty fun. And then at the end of the show, I was going out to go look for people for interviews. And so I went ahead and just let those all play back from the team's race. And Luke was commentating over top of those. And his son commentated with him for the team's race, which is awesome because Xander had a previous engagement for the evening. And yeah, so Luke and his son commentated together, did a great job. So whenever I hit the button, they watched the replays, and I got Alex and Dylan to go ahead and get in the booth for commentating or for interviews. And so they actually got to watch a little bit of those replays back as they got in there, which is really cool too. So yeah, that worked well. I think that's, obviously instant replays are a huge thing to up the level of quality of a broadcast, of a live stream. So now that I know that I can work around the SRT hardware encoding thing, I do want to try and continue to do that. So I will do that. And really, the fact that we're going to do the OCR shows not live at the race, we'll do them after the race, but we'll still be live. I can still do that. Those will be inputs just playing videos, so I don't have to worry about the whole SRT hardware encoding thing. I can just put those into the instant replay as 4 inputs, or however many cameras we got. I may have to up the amount of space that we have on that machine. It just depends. 4 cameras. We've got 4 cameras for, a 2-hour show. You could probably, I think there's enough space. I've currently got enough space on there for 4 cameras for, it's a 2-hour? Yeah, about a 2-hour show, I think. Now, this race was only doing 2 cameras. I could be off on those numbers, but something like that. So I will be able to do that for sure for the OCR races. So that's going to be good. The only other thing that was really different about this show was I had some graphics that showed the DEKA leaderboard for the year. So it's like, and I think we didn't have time to show it during the individuals race, but we did it for the teams race. So it comes up, looks like the regular leaderboard at the end of the race, showing the results for that race, but it's got a little title, says top 10 for the year. DEKA's really, their leaderboards are awesome. You can go and look and see not only the individual races, but for this year, what are what's the leaderboard looking like? Like, who was the fastest this year? And I think they want to have one for all time too, but I don't think they have that yet. Spartan, you go look for their, like, what's the series points, and I still don't even know if they've got it updated, to be honest. But so I don't know how DEKA does it. That's different, and I don't think it's live. I think they still do take those race results and put them into that leaderboard somehow. But the setup they've got is pretty good. I think it's fairly, it's pretty quick that it's up to date after that. I think they got somebody that's set up to do that each time.
You're welcome.
So yeah, that was about the only thing that was really different. The instant replays and that graphic that I did. The results came in super clean for the individuals race. So every zone we had, the splits for those zones. I don't recall if they give splits for the runs. I know they recorded, but I can't remember for sure if we get that in our results. So I'm trying to think of, I know like IROX just had their World Championship this weekend. I've actually listened to the race on the drive down to DEKA. And, if you haven't watched it yet, go watch it. Fantastic production. I mean, IROX is, they're still new and young, and they're trying to make their mark, push their sport forward. And Spartan did that in 2016, 2017. And that's, I think, was their biggest push. They spent a lot of money with ESPN and NBC, CBS, and it was great. But even before COVID happened, they stopped doing that stuff. The pro teams, they stopped giving us much money. They stopped having the pro team altogether. Like, all these different things that really diminished the elite side of the sport. Spartan's still been putting on the races for the open waivers. I don't think the quality of that has dropped at all. I think they've continued to do a fantastic job with that. But the elite side of the sport is definitely dropped. And Hyrox is now at their stage of pushing forward. And I have no idea what kind of numbers they're working with. I know we did their North American Championships and their World Championships in I want to say it was 22. Yeah, because it wasn't last year. I don't think it might have been last year. I have a hard time remembering. But we did it for them there, and then I think they realized how much trouble you get just working with cell signals and on a cheap budget. How it looks as cheap as you pay for, which they didn't pay us nothing. So, and then they decided, all right, let's do this seriously. And I'm assuming they hire somebody, but I don't know for sure. Actually, I've worked with a couple of guys there. It's like Graham. I would love to chat with him and see what's going on. Not because we want to be competition. Like, we're not like, hey, let us do it instead. Because no, they're not, like we've always said, we want what's best for the sport. And what they have going right now is way better product than I can do by myself. I feel like I know enough about this now that I could be part of a team like that and maybe not be the producer. I don't know. I think I know enough about the individual spaces that I could produce. I don't know if I would be the best producer because I've only done it, like directing, not the actual directing of the people that are running the show. That's the producer. So I'm not sure how well I could do that, but I know all the pieces that I think I could do a decent job. So if we ever got to the point to where we could have a team, I think I could move to a director or producer position to do that. So yeah, what they're doing is fantastic. You see in the show, there's actually a spot in the show where they had, it was almost like they were running underneath a walkway where the bleachers were. So it was like behind the bleachers. And whenever they were in there, it's like the signal cut out at some point in that run, almost every time they went through there. So there was definitely a spot that they had. So even whatever they're working with, I know from looking at the video where you can see their cameras, they've got not only very high quality cameras, very big cameras. You got anybody that's walking around, they've got a harness that's holding the camera up, and then they've got somebody where a camera is mounted on the back of this scooter thing, and somebody's, one person's driving it and one person's operating the camera. So, just thinking about the camera people, you got at least, I'm going to say 5 camera people. The 2 people on the scooter, have at least one on the ground, and then at least one up in the stands. Now, that one could be like the one that's looking at the whole grid. That one could be unmanned. It might be just a stationary camera. But they also have a crane. A crane operator. So, there's your 5 right there. At least, at a minimum, 5 people on the ground operating cams. And then, behind the scenes, they've got 2 commentators on the ground and 1 in the booth, and one of the commentators that are on the floor go into the booth as well. So you got 3 commentators on site, at least. I didn't pay attention if there was anybody else talking about at least those 3. And then, behind the scenes, who knows? I would love to know what software they're using, what platforms they're using. On those cameras, they've got mounts with whatever it is that's transmitting the signal, because they're not running wires. The cameras are not on wires. It's possible the static camera looking on the over the thing could be wired. The crane one could be wired, but wherever it is they're producing from, they would have to run the wires to those. More than likely, there could be like a base station where the cameras, their feed is wirelessly going to that, and then that could be wired out. Maybe not. It's hard to say. But yeah, producing, camera switching, graphics. I would dead set say that they have at least one person for each of those. One person switch cameras, one person doing graphics. At a minimum, there's no way with what they're doing, the level of production value that they're given, that there's not more people behind the scenes. So we know it's possible if you have people and the right equipment. We know that's possible. And we saw them get 10 or 20,000, I think upwards of 20,000 people watching live. And then not even 12 hours after the race, they had 65,000 views. So we know, now, not saying that OCR will ever get that many eyeballs. OCR may just not be that exciting to the mass crowd. Like Hyrox is very much more akin to CrossFit Games. It's easier to capture and make more appealing than running through the mountains is always harder. Now, that's also not to say that there's not a crowd for that too, because you look at live streams for trail races, and they get some big numbers on those trail races. And some of them are, several hours long. Those very, very long live feeds. And sometimes their production quality is so-so. Like, you get shots where it's just like the finish line, and you're just watching, waiting for somebody to come through. Lots of drone shots of just nothing, and just the mountain or whatever. So, but even so we know what's possible. Now, another piece of it is that Hyrox, they had an hour and a half long pre-show. Multiple, I'm going to say several pre-edited segments, interviews with athletes, really good edited segments, like showing athletes showing up, showing the venue, showing the town, just all this really nice footagery. And, it takes a really good editor to pop that stuff out quick. I don't think you'll be able to see these, but passing by, I would say like 10 or 12 trikes all in a row. Yeah, honestly, it looks like it might be a women's, like a women's bike club or something. I don't have, and I'm going to say it might be, and this is just going off of the braids and the hairstyle, but I'm going to say, well, yeah, now I can see their hands too. Yeah, a black female trike bike club, and their trikes are pretty sweet looking. I wish you could see this. That was really cool. That's awesome. They must be having a good time. So anyway, Hyrox's production quality is really going up. The hour and a half pre-show was great. And this is all, everything that they put into it leading up to the race. All the hype, everything, building the storyline around the athletes, really doing an awesome job. They're doing, I would say they're doing it right. They're doing what it takes to make people interested. Because when we put on a big production like that and you get low numbers, it's going to make you question, why do we do this? Now for us, we're still working with, lower, basically no budget and one-man crew type situations. So we're not like, banging our heads against the wall trying to figure out why we don't have crazy numbers. We understand. And we also understand that marketing is a big part of that. So there is going to come a point where that's one thing that we have to start doing. And we've started thinking about it. We just haven't done it yet. Is to start running ads, just doing a better job marketing. And I know I've got a guy, Brad Purnell. I know you're not listening to this, but if you do, if we do hire anybody to help us with marketing, we will come to you guys, absolutely. But, so yeah, go watch High Rocks. It's good. Great show. Awesome to see what is possible. I would love to know what their budget is, what kind of cost they're working with, what kind of crew size they're working with. But we know where it can go. So yeah, with us, so, DEKA, we had 2 people rabbit, 2 people, and then 5 cameras on course that were stationary cameras. So I use those stationary cameras when we want to look at people running around the track. Sometimes the rabbits run with them, but not always. And so sometimes we use those stationary cameras, especially out the gate. When they first start the race, that's the best thing, is just watching them coming through those views. I know those views could be better. They're always like, I don't know, you're watching people run past the camera. It's not the most compelling shots, but it is kind of cool to be able to see the whole pack, see where everybody's at as they're passing through, who's taking out the lead, who's in the back, that kind of stuff. I think that might be it for technical. I know next weekend is Spartan Mont Tremblant, so we got we're gonna do a post show for that. The race is on Sunday, so we'll be doing the show Monday evening. So I gotta fly back, gotta get everything ready, and we'll do the show after work for me. So that'll be next weekend. And then the same thing for Spartan Mexico, Vail de Bravo, the weekend after that. I think this is going to be good, because I know we're going into Mexico. We had to deal with taxes. I had to deal with taxes, import taxes. They'd see all the stuff that you got, and they're like, we can charge you for this, so you have to pay them. And this will allow me to travel in with much less stuff. So I hopefully won't have to deal with that. I'm not going to be bringing cameras in. I'm going to be bringing gimbals and a laptop, so it won't be anything too crazy. But other than that, the race itself, let's see. I know I usually talk about the race first. The race itself, let's see, the men's was good. We had Isaac Sanderson, Nick Riker, and Lynn Race all vying for podium spots. And Isaac's won the past 2. Lynn's got second in both. And Nick Riker hasn't run yet this year. And I honestly can't remember who went out first. It might have been, I don't know. But at some point, Glenn Race found himself in first, which was very cool to see. Like, he was really pushing hard, doing awesome. And talking to him later, he said that, he made the move. Like, he went for it. But unfortunately, he started to wear down and couldn't quite keep that pace up to the end. But he did. I mean, he really pushed for it, and it showed. So, very cool to see him up in first for a while there. And then Nick Riker passed him towards the end and held it through the finish. It was great race. Isaac, not his best performance, but still a great performance, getting third. It's funny, it's just funny, like, expectations. You see, he'll get first twice, and then it's like, all right, is he going to do it again? And hopefully nobody gave me crap for getting third. I mean, it's still awesome position, awesome placement. Not his PR. You can't PR every time. That's understandable. For the women's, Alex Walker pretty much blew the field out of the water. And then the second and third, it was either second and third or third and fourth was a good battle. You have to go back and watch the show to catch who it was. And I can't remember off the top of my head. Allison Outlaw and Allison. There was two Allisons. It was good. It was a good race. And then the teams men was first place pretty much took everybody like it was a couple minutes lead, but the co-ed race was fantastic. Fight with Alex Walker and Dylan, I forget his last name, and the other team was Heather White and Dustin Needham. They had such a great back and forth. Alex and Dylan were ahead for a while, and then Heather says that she's a stronger female athlete, and so she was expecting to really push hard on the bike and the ball overs and the sled and the burpees, and they did. They made up a lot of ground, caught up to Alex and Dylan, and then passed them, I think, on the tank. And then whenever they got out of I remember seeing it had been on the tank. And then Alex and Dylan passed them on that last run. I mean, it was like an inside corner pass. It was really cool. Great action, great fight. Good to see. Unfortunately, the team's race was behind schedule-wise already, and they waited for the first men's team to finish before they sent out the women. The co-ed. And then I think they sent the women out right after the co-ed because we never saw them start or never noticed them start. And so I think it just all happened so fast because they were behind schedule. And so we did capture the women's finish. We just didn't get any of the rest of the race and didn't even know where they were. We wasn't sure who was racing. It was really unfortunate, but when things are on a schedule like that, that's what can you do? And that's something else about High Rocks that they've done really awesome. When it comes to the elite race, they, at least at World Champs, and I know World Champs for DEKA is a little different too, but I feel like they do this at the majors. I don't know. But for World Champs, you had the women's race first, which is always great to see. And personally, I think it makes more sense. And not because it's more like the pre-show. Like, the women are great and they're amazing and they're fantastic athletes, but they're obviously not as strong and fast as the men. The top tier of the sport, the fastest woman, she might be in the top 5 of the men, but she's not at the top. So there's extra level of elite amazingness in the men's field. Both sides are obviously amazing, but there's just that little bit more in the men's field. So to me, it makes more sense to do the women's race first as the kind of warm-up to the big show. They're both big shows, but save the highest end for last. So to me, it would make more sense to do that. But in DEKA, they're on a schedule, so you gotta get those men through because they can finish first, and then you could. Because if you were waiting for the women to finish, it would be slightly longer than to wait until they all finish. I say slightly longer. Waiting for the top 10 women to finish would be a bit longer, another 10 minutes or so, as opposed to waiting for the top 10 men to finish, or the top 5, or whatever it is. So I understand why they do it, but hopefully at Worlds they'll do different. I can't remember if they did it like that last time, but we'll see. I just think that makes more sense. High Rocks did that, and I think it was really cool seeing the women go. All of them, all 15 finish, and they show it, all of it, before the men go out. It's really nice. Yeah, it's good. It was good racing. Go back and watch it. Check out towards after the races are over. That's where we showed the highlights, so you can watch those back. I mean, I know YouTube only has 60-second shorts, so that only makes sense to put those in there. But I could cut those out. You put them somewhere. Maybe a reel, Instagram reel. I feel like those can go up a lot longer now. So I could put those in there. I think the even the one on the teams race was only like 2 minutes worth of, so it's like 5 seconds per clip. So I think it was only like 2 minutes for all of them. So I could cut that out and put it as a reel. I'd have to do some editing because it's not, it's landscape, so we'll make it vertical. So it'd be a little bit of work, but probably wouldn't be too bad. Having the clips already done, that's where the work, the majority of the work goes in. So yeah, I could do that. Yep. So I'll finish it out with this, my race. I didn't do any DEKAs last year. Not as interested as I am in running obstacle course races. But I've told myself this year, mostly just because the first 3 months of the year, I was very off the wagon of working out, eating too much, all that good stuff, gained 10 pounds, all that. And so I told myself, if I'm traveling to a race, I've got a race right there. Like, even if it's a DEKA, I've got an event to do. I've got a workout to do at my fingertips. So why not? Like, I'm silly to not do it. So I do. So that's what I've been doing. And the first one I did in Knoxville, I was still 10 pounds heavier. Felt really rough that whole race. And I think I finished a 50:01 or something like that, 50:05. And then in SoCal, actually I didn't race in SoCal because I had DEKA with me, and since he couldn't race, we went to Disneyland after. So we were trying to get out of there as fast as we could, save time in Disneyland. But Knoxville, I was in better shape. So I finally got myself off on the wagon and started eating better, dropping some pounds, working out more consistently, more purposefully, and knew that I would easily beat my previous time. Like, it's silly because I was in rough shape at the time. But I wanted to get a video, kind of like an all options video, but like a all zones video. So I did brought the GoPro with me, and so at each zone I was setting up the GoPro before I did my the zone, the workout. And so there was that just slowed me down, in itself. And even with that, I went from a 50:01 down to a 48:30, something like that. Basically like a minute. I think it was like a minute and a half on the money that I had made up. So this was, let's say, a month since Knoxville, or since NorCal. Maybe like 3 weeks, something like that. And so I, again, been continuously working out, dropped a few more pounds. I'm 10 pounds down from where I was. Feeling more fit in my workouts. I've been just feeling like I'm running better. My pace is faster. My comfortable endurance pace is faster. I'm able to push a little harder. Now I've dealt with all the the sodium issues and the hyponatremia issues. So I'm very cognizant of that. And I started taking some sodium pills before my workout. So instead of, expecting to take them after, I'm still taking stuff after, but I'm taking them before, and it's helping me feel much better through the workout. And then after the workout is more where I start to feel, depending on how hard I push. If I still push hard, I can still have feel pretty rough at the end of a workout. That happens. So I think that kind of even happened at this race. So I knew that was going to be a run better. So for comparison, I was clocking myself in NorCal at a 9:30 pace for pretty much the whole race. I was like, okay, I'm going to try and hit 9:30, see if I can stick with it. And I was able to do that pretty comfortably. And so for this one, I feel like I had been doing in similar workouts, been able to hold around a 9-minute pace and maybe even faster. So that was my plan, is to try and go 9-minute pace. Now, running without GPS, because you're inside of a building and it doesn't pick up, is tough. So it's hard to know if your watch is being accurate when it comes to pace. But that's what it was saying. It was saying I was basically 9 minutes and under. Sometimes it was 8:45, sometimes it was 8:30, and it's like, wow, I don't know how accurate that is, but it feels good. So I felt pretty good. I still took the zones conservatively. My drum mouth is making it hard to talk. Conservatively, yeah, it's not quite right.
I don't.
Sorry. And yeah, zones took them easy-ish, as much as you can. Now I go into the zones, and I expect to not break, not stop, not take a break, to do them all the way through. So my effort level is slow enough and easy enough that I don't have to take a break. And to me, there's two things that does. For one, when you're running the race, the more consistent you are, the faster your time is going to be over pushing and dying. So that's one thing. And the other thing is that pushing and dying. Like if you try to push and take breaks, you're just going to feel worse for the whole race. You're going to hit this wall over and over and over again. So doing it more consistently, not only are you going to feel better, which makes you enjoy it more, and gives you that extra level of being able to push when you need it, as opposed to killing yourself over and over and then feeling like you have no push whatsoever. So that's why I think that's a good way to do it. So for some people, and this is even a running tip that I have given to people that I know that are not experienced runners, because people run and they run too hard and they think that running is hard. And they say, I can't run. Well, no, you can't run that fast. That's why you feel like you're dying. So you just need to run slow. So for some people, they feel like, oh, I'm trying to run a 10-minute pace and I can't. I got to stop and walk every 2 minutes. And it's like, well, don't run a 10-minute pace. Run slower. Run an 11-minute. Run a 12-minute. Run a 13. Run a 14-minute pace. You can literally move forward in a running motion that's not walking at a 16-minute pace. If you're walking, you're probably doing a 20-minute pace, unless you're trying to speed walk. So you can run that slow. It's just you got to practice a little bit. And the way I've helped people do it before is to say, okay, let's start running in place. And then we're running in place, and I'm telling them, look, you are running so slow that you're not moving. So when you tell me that you can't run slow, that's baloney, because you're literally running in place. And if you can run in place, then you can run any pace that you want. Any pace. So, we start moving forward. Okay, let's move forward. Now, I did this with a group of guys at Clear one time. Let's move forward. We're running in place. Let's start moving forward, but do not pass me up. And so I started running forward at a, slower than a walking pace. And we slowly pick up that pace to where it's a little faster and a little faster. And then maybe we get up to, at the end, maybe we're doing like a 12-minute pace or something like that. But to prove to these people, and, hopefully anybody else is hearing this, to prove that you can run slower, and that's where you find what your aerobic pace is, and you find out, oh, I can run. It may be as slow as crap, but I can run. And that's where you start to love running, because you realize that you can do it. People think that they're so bad at running and that they just can't do it. And you can. Anybody can. And that, obviously, some people have health issues or injuries or whatever. So that's understandable. But for the most part, anybody can run. So, bring this back around, back with DEKA, same thing with the zones. If you do the workouts in a DEKA and you find that you need to take a break, just try to do the zones slower. Maybe that means actually doing the physical activity, like each rep, slower. But it also might just mean taking that extra second between reps. Not that you're taking a break, but taking that extra second between reps, or extra couple seconds. So I think the lunges, first one. You go down, knee hits the ground, you come back up, you go back down, knee hits the ground. To take that slower, take a second pause at the bottom. Take a second pause at the top. You don't have to sit there and just stand there for a couple, 5 seconds, 10 seconds to be able to catch your breath. If you do the whole thing at a consistent pace, you can find where that consistency is for you. Box jumps, same thing. Do it slower and take a longer pause, not a break, but a longer pause once you get over each side. Med ball sit-ups, that one is tricky. But again, I think just do it slower. It still takes the same level of effort to do each rep. That's where that one gets hard. Because you can't really do it slower to do a sit-up. You can, but really if you do a sit-up slower, you're really actually putting out more effort because you're having to hold that longer. And obviously the bike, the tank, and the row, all of those you can do slower. If you take the bike, if you got to take it at a leisurely pace, there's no reason to have to stop. You just take it as you can. Same for those other ones. You don't have to go hard and then die or take a break. Let's see. Well, it's the ball overs, farmer's carry. Farmer's carry, that one is tough because if you go slower, that's the longer you got to hold those dang things. So that one actually does benefit from getting finished faster. But I don't advise blasting through it if you can't hold that pace without coming out of it dead. If you can't, then that one I do suggest taking breaks. Carry it, however far you can. Maybe that's only, because we get the out and backs, maybe it's only one length. So you take it there, set it down. But the thing is, to be more consistent with it, set it down before you die. Make that consistency. Don't make yourself feel like you got to sit there and take a break longer because you waited too long to set it down. Go down that length, set it down, pick it back up 2 seconds later. Make that break shorter, and I think that would really help you get through it faster. The dead ball wallovers, that one is tough too, because the effort, and this is actually in my race where I started feeling like I was blowing up. The effort to do the rep, there is no easy way to do it. You have to pick up that daggum thing to the level that the height that you got to go. You can't pick up that thing slow. I mean, it's a squat, a weighted squat. So you got to pick it up and be explosive with it. Like, you being explosive actually helps you to get it over easier. So in that case, maybe just take the walk around to the other side a little slower. That's really, like, try not to stop, but the actions between the explosiveness can be slowed down, and that should help you keep a more consistent pace throughout. Burpees, same thing, but the best part about the burpees is that they're at the end. So whenever you are done, you can just go die, and it's okay. So yeah, burpees, I try to gauge how many burpees do I think I can sell out on and just be dead at the end. This race, because I got to the ball overs, I started to feel that I didn't get lightheaded, I don't think, but I started to feel that where each ball over was starting to really tax me. And so I got through those, dialed the run back a little bit for that one, and took it easy-ish through the tank. I didn't try to push through the tank. And then I felt better to where I was able to pick up my pace again through the run to get to the burpees. And then I knew I was already struggling. Like, I was really wanting something to drink. I just could tell that I was really having a hard time. So I knew the burpees were going to be extra hard. So I went through. Also, last race, I was trying to push through the burpees real fast, and my form was horrible. Like, I was not extending all the way overhead, so I purposely wanted to make sure I had good form this time. And so I was taking on a little slower, getting that form, getting that extension, full extension. And I got through first 10. I was doing a little bit of like step down, but I was still hopping up, both feet hopping up. And I got to those last 10, and I still didn't feel like I could sell out through 10. So I did 5 more, same paces I was just doing, step ups, step downs, and then hop ups. But then once I got to 15, that's when I was like, all right, it's time to, I can do 5. So I just did 5, powered through as fast as I could, separate the line, sucking air, and you got it. Finished with a PR of 45:30, I think. So about 3 minutes, or 2.5 or 3 minutes on the PR, better than a PR. So now I know. Now I'm at a spot where my PR is going to be. I'm not going to have an easy time beating a PR now. I'm going to go into one of those races, the next race, and actually, I say that, but I won't be at any more DEKAs because all the rest of them, all 4 this year, the rest of them overlap a series race. So unfortunately, I'll be at all the series races, not the DEKAs. But, I won't be able to race World Championship because they don't have open. They do have a volunteer wave. Yeah, they have a volunteer wave that I could do. But, so anyway, next time I get to do a DEKA, beating that PR will actually be, but that's where I'll really start testing myself, because you think of guys like Isaac Sanderson, he's got such a good PR, under 30 minutes. Like, that's, if you expect to beat that, you got to be top of your game, because to be the best version of yourself that you've ever been, you just got to be on. So yeah, I'm not looking forward to the next one when I think to myself, oh, I want to try and beat my PR. Because, that's always a goal. It's like, go into it. You can say, well, I'm not worried about my PR. I'm just going to go out and see how it, just going to run it. Not trying to beat anything. Maybe, for people who are in an age group, you're competing with others around you, so that's awesome. But for me, just running open, it's all I've got is myself to really compare against. I did have, I noticed a guy, I think I didn't notice him until the tank, maybe. And we were all in the tank at the same time. And I noticed he was pushing faster than me. Not by a ton, but enough that maybe over the course of the whole thing, he could have been a length ahead. But I went out, I think at least a length ahead of him. So he must have come in behind me. So I have no idea who that was. I don't know what his time was. He may have started. He definitely didn't start at the same time as me because he wasn't in, my wave. So he might have been, who knows? Who knows where he started? He might have been behind me. He might have been way faster than me. But being side by side, it made me feel like we were racing. And I think the same thing happened to him too, because when I was doing the burpees, he came in shortly after me and was burpeeing too. And I pushed through, got across the finish line. And when he came through, he was like, hey man, great race. Like I feel pretty confident that he was trying to race me there, which was awesome. So yeah, I think, if I would help push him, that's really cool. And that's the difference you get when you're racing with other people versus just racing yourself. So yeah. Anyways, I think that about covers it. Looking forward to the next Spartan in Mont Tremblant, where I'll be rabbiting, along with, I'm not sure who yet. If you know anybody that's going to be up there that can help rabbit with us, please let them know. The more rabbits we have, we can have upwards of 8 that I'm comfortable camera switching with 8 cameras. Don't want to do any more than that. Then it just becomes a lot of cameras. But, yeah, so if you know anybody, have them reach out. I'll be rabbiting, and that actually, I didn't double check my flights. I think I'm flying up Friday night. I think I'm planning on racing Saturday. So I'm already Saturday, do an obstacle video and do the rabbiting on Sunday, because they're series races on Sunday. And then I'll fly back Sunday night. So that'll be interesting. Should be a lot of fun. Going to continue on, just working it, progressing, and hope that, we get some sponsors at some point. If anybody know any sponsors that they think would be a good fit for us, let us know. And we're ready to start making those relationships and getting more production value for those companies, and more marketing on our side so that we get the views up. We've got pretty consistent views from the community. Getting outside of the community is where you start to really grow numbers. But anyways, that'll do it for me. Driving home. Still got another 45 minutes. Not too bad. Thanks for listening. I'm actually going to go listen to Rich Ryan and Ryan Kent talk about their IROX race. Good stuff there. I won't spoil anything. So if you haven't watched the race yet, don't go listen to them. Go watch the race and then go listen to them and catch up with it. Thanks.